So welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another video. So now that I got the Mustang running, if you don't know what Mustang I'm talking about, there'll be a link in the description about the video on this 1990 GT Fox body that I just picked up. Needed a fuel pump. Anyways, go look at the video if you're interested in that. But now that I got it running, there's a few things that I need to fix. So there's a few things on this Mustang that aren't working that I want to get corrected before I start driving it, just so it could be like 100%, well, maybe 90% roadworthy. So one of the problems is this AC heater control is not working correctly. So if I turn this thing on vent, turn it on high, there's no air coming out of the vents. The fan speed works. As you select the different fan speeds, that's working. So this knob is stuck, and usually on these older vehicles it has a cable that goes to the heater box. And on the heater box, there's a lever that'll switch between the heater core and the AC condenser. So we're gonna take this apart and see where that cable leads. I pretty much think it leads that way, so we'll probably start over there. And the same thing with this heater control. This one I believe is vacuum operated. So more than likely I just have a vacuum problem because it doesn't switch between the different settings. But let me pull that apart and see if I can see where the cable goes. Alrighty, let's look under here. And probably that is my cable right there. I might have to take this box off to see where everything's at. Oh, that's working. You see that? That's vacuum operated. That's my recirculating door for my air conditioner. So let's take some stuff apart. If we look inside, you see more. Yeah, so it is vacuum operated. You can see these are vacuum lines that go to that controller. So more than likely, it not changing between the different settings is vacuum operated. So if you see that cable right there, that is what changes the position of the little plastic door that goes between hot and cold. So I'm able to move it by hand. If you look out here, when I move it by hand, this is working. So it could just be that it hadn't moved in so long. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna spray a little lube on that cable very lightly. There you go. Spray a little lube there. See how I'm just kind of like dabbing it on there? So what I'm hoping is happening is that is going down into this cable and freeing up whatever's stuck. And now look at that action. Goes from all the way from one end to the other. And it was binding up around right here, but now it goes all the way to the end. So lubing that cable is what actually fixed it. But if you see how that thing pivots on that little bracket right there, that thing was binding up on the way down. So I lubed that a little bit too, and now it goes all the way open and all the way closed. Since that AC system is vacuum controlled, if you look at this big vacuum tee right here, BB, brake booster, SC, what does that go? I don't know what SC means. AC, BR is blocked off, and S is something else. So the AC one is the one we gotta look at. And oh, I can already see it. See as I'm pulling the cable, you see how it's called the inside. So it looks like this one-way valve. Yeah, see how this vacuum line goes into the inside to the heater plenum, and this goes who knows where. But as you can see, it's busted. So probably all we have to do is just make that connect, and I'm pretty sure it'll work. See that little piece of vacuum? You just gotta double check everything, make sure that there's no other vacuum leaks. You see that little indent right there? I don't know if you can see it. So it's been rubbing on something, and that's where it broke finally. So it should work now. All right, so now that it's running, turn the AC on, put it on vent, and there you go. Woo! Working like it should. So that's all it was that vacuum line. AC's not working, but you know, if I had AC, that would work there. Let's go to floor. Sure enough, it's working on the floor. Mix is floor and, yep, floor and defroster, and then all defroster. And that is also working. So that's that. And you can feel the change because the airflow will change depending on cold or hot. So that's obviously working. Perfect. All right. So when I was working on it, when I initially got it, I did notice a healthy amount of turds all over the engine bay and under the vehicle. So I think I found the nest. I'm gonna pull this off and try to clean that up, because a lot of that, this is where your air vent goes for the inside of the cab, and that's probably why I'm getting all that trash. So you go like this, pull up on that. There you go. So there's definitely a nest, especially right there. That's where the nest was. So I'm gonna get some breathing protection in my shop vac and try to clean all this out, because it is gross. Ugh. Gross. Ugh. There's the sound in there that was on the hood. Alrighty. So that's probably as good as I'm going to be able to get at it. It's really clean. It's draining on both sides. The way you can tell is it all drains out of the bottom. So you can see it dripping right there. And that's what you want to see. You don't want any of that water sitting there and all them turds. If they sit there in water, could cause rust, which there's already a little bit of rust going on here. So I'm gonna put this all back together. All right, so another thing I wanted to take a look at or get repaired is my fuel gauge isn't working. And as you can see, I've already taken this apart off camera because everything's plastic and brittle, and I'll explain to you later. Well, my fuel gauge isn't working. And the way it's acting right now is when you cycle the key, you turn it, you turn the vehicle on, and the gauge automatically goes to 0 and it stays there. It doesn't move, doesn't change. So there's only a few things that can cause that. It's either the gauge itself, some connection to the instrument cluster, the fuel sender, or an anti-slosh module. And I'll show you what that is right now. So the reason I took it all apart off camera is because all these plastic pieces right here, they're very brittle. And I did end up, well, that one just fell apart. I didn't even break it. I did glue it back together, but I'm gonna use some plastic welding little wire tabs that you can melt in there to put more structure in there, because I think just being glued like that, if when I put the little retainer that holds the screw in, I'll end up breaking it. So I'm gonna go ahead and melt some of those plastic welding little wires that go in there to give that more structure. So when I put it all back together, it won't rattle, and at least the screw will be back in. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. This anti-slash module right here, like I said, there's only a few things that could be wrong with it. It's either the cluster, that module, the sender, or the gauge. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna bypass this module, and it'll come out real easy. It's just a little tab. You push it down, you depress the tab, and then you just pull it out, and there you go. There's your anti-slosh module. So I'm gonna show you a trick on how to bypass it, really, and it'll give you the resistance coming from your fuel sender, and that'll kind of tell you that the sender's good, the wiring's good, the cluster's good, and the gauge is good. But first we gotta bypass it. So what we're gonna do here is just put a piece of electrical tape over these 3 terminals, and it doesn't have to be like permanent, just to test it, right? And then you jump these 2 just with a piece of wire. You just kind of stuff them under the wires right there, or under the terminals, and you plug it back in, and you don't got to really worry about it too much because of the way it connects. It just slides in and out. All right, so just carefully put it back in, and then we'll cycle the key again. And as you can see, it's showing me that I have about a quarter tank of fuel, a little less than a quarter tank. So that's giving me the signal from the sender. So that's telling me that the sender wiring cluster gauge is good. The only thing wrong with it is the anti-slosh module. So that's all we got to really do is replace that. All right, so now we're gonna move on to repairing the dash. Well, not the dash, around, I guess the dash part around the cluster where the screw retainers go for the instrument cluster cover. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna use these plastic welding little like wired, I don't know what they're called, but they're just wires. And what it does is this heat gun superheats that wire, and what we're gonna end up doing is we're just gonna melt that into the existing plastic. Now I already crazy glued that, but I doubt that crazy glue is gonna hold. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna give it more structure, it's gonna give it more strength. So when I do put that screw retainer back in there, it'll hold, it'll give it more bite to hold on to. So all you do is you stick it on there and you see that smoke coming up. So all I'm doing is I'm melting that little wire into the plastic, into the existing plastic. And then I put 2 of them just to make sure that it has good structure, like a good frame. So when I put that retainer back in, it won't pull up and break it again. Well, at least I'm hoping it won't. This is because this is a common thing with these dashes. I've seen a lot of them break like this. All right, so then after a little bit of sanding with the little belt sander, you just want to knock off the edges, because once you melt that in, you just kind of cut the edges off. So now this should be plenty strong. And when I slide the clip back in, that'll be my first test. Because if it falls apart as I'm sliding the clip in, that pretty much tells me that it didn't work and it's not gonna hold. Well guys, looks like that's it. It's all back together. Now, turn the key on. Oh, we already showed you this, right? Doesn't go to empty, which is what we wanted. That's the beginning of making a bunch of little videos on stuff that needs to be done, because even though this isn't that old a car, it is 30 years old. So it does need a considerable amount of work, more than I remember them, because I had one of these a long time ago and I don't remember it needing this much work. But anywho, in saying all that, thank you once again for joining me. Please like and subscribe if you're liking the content. Leave me a like, leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.